but it's scary. And it's hard to like be stuck in that and realize that you have to do something that is going to be painful and it's going to be difficult, but it is going to be worth it in the long run if you just believe in it and you trust it and you go with it. Um, and yeah, so much of the record is transitional. And
the Caleb Shomo you knew of the past is long gone. The creative mind behind Beartooth has faced his demons and come out the other side renewed, as is displayed in the sunny, positive vibes of new album The Surface. Mixing together his love of pop songwriting with the heavy hooks and screams that made his name, Shomo explores his journey to recovery and his newfound outlook on life, ready to open up a new chapter in his musical journey. He guides us through the writing process and challenges behind the creation of Beartooth's 5th LP, revealing how everything you have ever heard from the band has all been leading up to this point. Read the full feature and get your exclusive t-shirt right now over on rocksound.tv. But with some video highlights, I'm James Wilson Taylor, and this is the album story of The Surface by Beartooth. You've managed to do the unthinkable, which is bring in some poppier elements to your sound, but that edge is still there, man. It's still all present and correct, and we're getting heavy in all the right places, and it still makes sense. Tell me a little bit about the journey of that. It's got to be quite an interesting balancing act to kind of play with those two styles.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was really finding, like you said, it is a balancing act. I mean, it was incredibly important to me to represent where I'm at in my life and in my musical journey. And leaning into the pop side of my writing was very, very important. I mean, I've always been a pop writer, and that's always been super crucial to what I do and very crucial to Beartooth. I mean, that's why the choruses are what they are and always have been, very influenced by pop. But yeah, for this record, I mean, my motto for the whole thing was just no fear. And like I really wanted to serve every song in the best way possible. And yeah, so like leaning into the pop was really fun. But at the same time, I still think, I mean, it's a Beartooth record, and there are still a lot of very, I don't know, important emotions that can only be, I guess, put across with heavier stuff. And like the record, yeah, obviously it's a much more positive album, but it really is like about that transition and in the transition into the new mindset. And so, you know, it started off, I wanted to start it in a very classic Beartooth fashion, like with track one. I feel like 1, 2, and 3 are like you're getting very much a taste of, you know, pretty classic Beartooth, and then from there you get that huge shift into the middle section of the album.
It's funny you say that though, because like the sense of fun is there immediately. You're telling people to turn it up straight away. Like, do you know what I mean? It's still, yes, it's a big heavy punch to start with, but immediately we can sense that that tone is there, that sort of lightness of touch a little bit. That's, I mean, there's loads of ad libs all the way through like that, which I think are a nice, that must have been a conscious decision to be like, you know what, this is little fun moments we can pop in there.
Yeah, leaving that stuff in definitely was important to like the sound of the record and to the fun of the record. And I mean, there's been a lot of stuff that I like kind of stopped doing that as much for a while. I don't know, there was something fun about those sessions, about just like kind of hitting record and just letting things come out. And I mean, that's how like in Might Love Myself, that like big moment in the middle, that's kind of like the vocal run, and I go, woo, and then we kick back in. Like that just happened. I was just, you know, kind of like just tracking that verse, and I did that. And I was like, okay, just cut the music, let that be there, and then we can kick back in. And same with The Surface. I knew when I wrote that song, I knew it was going to be track one, and I wrote it quite a long time ago. And I was just listening to it, just kind of laughing, and I was just like, all right, how are we, what am I going to like, what do I want to start this thing with? And I don't know. It just happened. I was like, yeah, turn it up. And I'm like, there we go. Like, all right, we're good. You know, when I was in there cutting that vocal, and I like turned my headphones up, and I was like, all right, we go. So I just left it, and I thought it was just a little more fun way to start the record. And yeah, I guess it does kind of set a bit more of a tone of like, we're just here to have a good time. Like, you know, I know there can be heavy subjects and whatever, but like at the end of the day, I want this to be a fun experience.
I'm glad you mentioned the vocal run as well because it's something I couldn't have imagined you doing a few records back, just because it was in a completely different style, right?
Yeah, I mean,
But
it's
like,
something
it's
I probably couldn't have done a few records ago, to
do you
be
think? Do you think so? Because I feel like it's definitely it felt very very comfortable and everything. It's clearly always been there. Maybe it was. I mean, when you tell me, was it just a confidence thing? Is it like I guess we will touch on the fact that you're in a very positive place right now, and that's clearly expressed throughout the record. Is it just again this sense of fun? Is that how it kind of comes out?
Yeah, I mean, so like that song, I was listening to a lot of Ariana Grande when I wrote that song, and that was she was like without a doubt the biggest influence on that song, at least from a musical standpoint. Um, and yeah, I mean, obviously, if you listen to Ariana, like she's got a fucking unbelievable voice, and she uses it. Um, and I don't know, I just was kind of getting lost in the take, and I just like it happened, and it was really cool, and I was like, sweet, like all right, let's just going into like a vocal session from a place of like real confidence and just like empowerment, mentally, I think led for those moments to be able to happen. Um and also I think like it just represents the song. Because the song is really me trying to capture that moment that I realize like I'm understanding what self-love means. And I kind of like wrote that song really in that moment. And yeah, it was a really special thing to be able to capture.
Those themes of like wanting to better yourself and finding some peace and finding some well-deserved happiness there in the same way that people very much related to your kind of raw and honest lyrics in the past. I mean, that's just it's the same coin. Do you know what I mean? It's a slightly different edge, a slightly different side of the same coin. People who've been through those and could relate to those early lyrics, I like to think they can still very much relate to what you're talking about here. That's what everyone wants, right? We maybe don't dwell in it in the same way, but when you're going through tough times, you're hoping to be able to have moments like this. It's got to be, yeah. I mean, just tell me a little bit about that from a lyrical standpoint, I suppose. Like, it must feel like it's coming from, if not exactly the same place, because your mindset, it's a similar emotion behind it in a way, right?
It is really interesting that you say that because like Beartooth songs have always come from the exact same place, every single one. They come from what exactly is like the thing that is most prevalent in my emotional state right now that I'm feeling, other than, maybe a small handful of songs that are like kind of observant about other things in life. But really at the core, that's what Beartooth is. And that's where I write from. I try and write from the same place that I wrote the first record from and the first EP when originally I had planned on nobody ever hearing this other than people very close to me and it just being a personal passion project. So like the fact that I'm able to write from the same place and I'm still writing the same type of it, the song itself is still just as much a Beartooth song as any other song I've ever written in the process. But the um yeah, like the subject matter is just different because I am in a completely different place in my life. And I hope that that is what people understand about it. It's not like I'm just I don't know. It's like, all right, it's time to just write happy songs. Let's write happy songs. It's like, no, I'm putting in the work to be able to write these happy songs from the exact same place that I wrote the sad ones. It's just what's the most prevalent thing that I'm feeling, you know?
Yeah, and like in terms of some specific lyrics, I mean, you set your stall out early. I mean, the fact that the shouted repeated of the phrase I'm not dead yet" is gonna that's I mean, you're setting your stall out straight away. It's like, yeah, here we are, we're here to stay. But I even love things like, I think my favorite lyric on the album is "Let's try selling our souls," because like I love that you can take that in a couple of different ways. It's like that's normally seen as such a negative, but it feels like you're kind of saying it like, no, let's bare our souls out there and actually
Yeah.
show a different side to us. I mean, lyrically overall, it seems like you're not just talking about the happier place you're in, but it feels like there's a few moments where it's talking about that transition specifically, which is really kind of interesting, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that you reference the lyric from Sunshine because I think Sunshine is the most encapsulating of the shift of being in the middle of that transition. Um and yeah, I mean that song is obviously written around me. It's written around my seasonal depression. It's written around living in Columbus, knowing that there's something I can do to change it, move, get out of somewhere with like brutal winters that affect me so negatively. And but it's scary, and it's hard to like be stuck in that and realize that you have to do something that is going to be painful and it's going to be difficult, but it is going to be worth it in the long run if you just believe in it and you trust it and you go with it. Um, and yeah, so much of the record is transitional, and yeah, from I mean, even the first song on the record is incredibly transitional. It's specifically about me. Like a lot of the songs are really about me, quitting drinking and chasing a whole new way to approach mental things. And um obviously, like, the verses are about me still being in that deep depth of being stuck in my ways and just beating my head against the wall, doing the same thing over and over and over. And then the chorus is about like kind of what it felt like to be on this like manic high almost of when my chemicals were like kind of configuring themselves for that first few months without alcohol. It was a very bizarre feeling, but it was really cool. And so yeah, like there's so much there's so many different extremes about lyrics on the record. Like, from the chorus of The Surface, which is literally just out it's me just saying verbatim all of my worries were a waste of time, like this outrageously positive thing, to the point of like, like this almost sounds kind of crazy. Like this is wild and this might not exactly be reality. But that's how I felt at the moment too. Stuff like Look the Other Way, which is like a very, very intense emotional song, but at the root of it, it's all about change. Yeah.
I know that features are the kind of in thing at the minute, and I by the way, I think that's actually a really good thing. I think we went through a long period in the scene where that was gone, and I've been really delighted to see it kind of come. I mean, you've done a few yourselves with some other artists in the last couple of years, and I just think it's a really nice thing. But it has to make sense. You don't want a feature for a feature's sake, and
Right.
this makes sense because those dueling vocals, your vocals complement each other really, really well. Again, that fun aspect, hit him with the riff. Come on, it's fun. It's a fun vibe, man. Tell me about working with Hardy on this one and why they felt like the right choice, I suppose.
Yeah. So I had written that song a year before he even cut the vocal, over a year before he even cut the vocal on it. And when I wrote it, um, it was in LA, and I had it, and I just knew, because I've never done a feature before in a Beartooth song. For obvious reasons. Like I've been saying, it's like Beartooth is a very, very personal thing. It's not for anybody else. So I'm not gonna just throw somebody on it for the sake of it. But I wrote the song The Better Me, and I was like, this this could this could be the one. This could be the one that I do something special with and get a feature on. And it has a different feel already. It's very pop. It's very like, I loved the song. I was super proud of the songwriting on it. Um, yeah, and I don't know, the Hardy thing just kind of happened. We became friends just through some like mutual friends in the scene. He's a big golfer. I'm a big golfer. To be honest with you, I have definitely some roots from like my family and stuff in country music, but not pop country. Like, bluegrass and stuff that influenced like the Blackbird Sessions EP that we did. That Blackbird Sessions was really like an homage to my to some of my family and my like kind of gospel roots, and like I don't know, the Kentucky and the more southern sound that is very prevalent in my family. That being said, Hardy is also like he's kind of cut from a similar cloth. Rock kid, loves heavy metal. I mean, he has a song with Jeremy from A Day to Remember on his last record. Um, and he's just an absolute sweetheart of a person. And I figured, like, let's fucking do it. Let's throw a curveball. I mean, I want this record to be a curveball in a lot of ways. Like, it couldn't be the obvious feature of somebody from like the same metalcore scene. It because that wouldn't make sense. Like I want this record to be very different and to capture all the changes that I'm going through. Yeah, having a feature that was kind of more out of left field that most people wouldn't expect was important. And I showed him the song and he loved it. And he said, yeah. And I told him, I was like, well, if we're going to do it, I want to do it the way country artists do it. And like, I don't want to just be like, you do the second verse or you do the bridge and then that's it. It's like, no, let's like make it a duet. Like, let's go back to back, line for line. And yeah, I sent him the track. He is an absolute professional. And he is so talented. And I cannot wait. I'm sure we're gonna actually like properly write some songs together at some point, which I really want to do. But we did it over a Zoom session. I mean, the dude played a stadium the night before, got on his plane, he was in the studio the next day at noon. And he cut those vocals in like 45 minutes, just him and his engineer. And I mean, it was just astounding. And like, he's just so true to form, just the way he sings. And it was super cool to watch. And yeah, it made for what I think is one of the most unique Beartooth songs of all time. And a collaboration that I hope people are not ready for, but I hope people get and understand that, like, you know, everybody from every scene, I think I would love for them to hear what I have to say. And like, it's going to be a little more important to me to do that with somebody that's going to push this to a whole different world of people than the average, feature would. And it's an honor to be able to do it with him.
I want to mention the artwork next. So, I mean, color palettes have always been really kind of important whenever you've hit a new era. You can see that kind of seeping through every time. Orange was obviously everywhere a couple of records back and all that stuff. Big, bright color palettes on everything you've done this time. Tell me a little bit about putting together, of course, that beautiful artwork image, but also the kind of use of color and imagery around this era.
Yeah. So, I mean, the three colors that we used for this rollout, obviously pink being the most important and the one that is the record. But even for the singles, Riptide and Sunshine, doing like whole color palette releases for those. I think it's just such a great way to express what's going on and like really just take that meaning even further. We work with a company called Tension Division, who is also from Columbus. I met them from some good friends in the Camp of 21 Pilots, who is another great Columbus group. And they've been working with them for a long time. And we started working together on Disease. And they just like, were like explained to me the importance of having a color to represent what you're doing and how powerful that can be. And even for me, like I embody whatever color we're going through. Like it's incredibly empowering and it really does change the mood. And yeah, so starting from orange to, what we did orange and purple. And then yeah, Riptide was that kind of blue, that like, blue green kind of color. And like I the point of that color was just to really represent like change and almost kind of like, obviously the song is called Riptide and there's a lot of references to water and stuff, but it's about kind of like washing away a lot of the old stuff that I was dealing with. Doing something very bright was crucial. Sunshine, I mean, it's obvious. What else are you going to do with yellow? Like that, that song is about chasing something new. And for me, very specifically seasonal depression. So yeah, like the yellow just made sense. But the pink is, I think, the most important and the most kind of like the biggest departure we've ever done color wise. I think that it was just kind of like it just had to be pink. It's like below being purple and being so dark, and like purple was like one of my favorite colors and I felt like I related to it so much. And it's so dark and doom, and there's so much like doom and gloom related to the color purple, and like intensity. But I wanted something really light and like, to me, I call it California sunset. Is like that was what the the real kind of start of the Pink was when I was out in California for the first time writing songs for The Surface. You know, California sunsets are just beautiful, and that pink, that really like dusty bright pink, I was just like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is what we got to do. It's bright, it's loud. I want that to be the forefront. And, you know, it's something unexpected, probably, that people wouldn't think that we'd be going with. But I think it just represents exactly what this record is, which is just a big shift to a whole new area of my life.
We alluded to the fact that, you know, this was kind of a plan in a way to get to this point. You know, even if it was just down to the titles that you had planned, you knew you were going to get to a certain point in terms of the records. As you've said, it's coming from a new place now, whatever does come forward. Is it too early to kind of think about where that might lead to, or are you already kind of thinking about what kind of spaces you might want to push? I guess this is the beauty of it. You've completed a journey here, so it can go anywhere. You're not tied to anything in that way.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I have no clue what the next Beartooth record is going to be. I have no clue what this next chapter of Beartooth is going to be. Um, None whatsoever. But what I have learned is that usually, and you know, so far it's been about every 2 years, give or take a little bit, I write a record about exactly what I'm going through at the moment and my emotional state, and trying to capture that through song, which is my most efficient way of speaking and communicating anything. Um, what that turns into, I have no idea. But I know what it's not going to be. And what it's not going to be is what I've done in the past. And in that first chapter is done. I've closed that book. And it was very important, and it was something that was crucial to my life. And yeah, you know, I still like, through all the highs and the lows, I'm glad that it all happened because it all brought me to where I am today. But yeah, I'm in a whole new place now. And again, and like, I don't know if I'll be here forever. I don't know what this place even is, other than just like, the main thing I'm focused on is being present, is just being here and just not thinking about the future. Um, so much of being a musician is planning, and like, if I look on a calendar, I know where I'm going to be for like 70% of my time for the next 2 years. At this venue at this date, I will be on stage at this time with this band and with the, you know, like, it's so easy to get lost in that. And it's so easy to get lost in achievement. It's so easy to get lost in, okay, if we didn't sell this many tickets versus when we were here last time, if we don't sell this many records versus this thing, if we don't, whatever it may be, it's so easy as a musician to just get lost in time. And it's basically just like hitting fast forward. Um, and all I really hope is that I am present throughout this cycle and through whatever other cycles I've got, because life is very short and it's so easy to let it just completely fly right by, especially in this music scene. So yeah, whether that comes to whatever the records are, I have no clue. Um, but yeah, and like you said about talking about what the future holds for us. Um, yeah, I know in technical terms, certain shows and certain moments we're going to have, but I don't care about that really at the moment. What I care about is just being able to actually enjoy what's in front of me at this current moment in time in the present, and just be here for now, and enjoy it while I got it, because it's not fucking long. It goes by like that. So yeah.